right here on Political Artistry. Good evening and welcome to the show. My name is Oluwakayode, and you know what we do every Sunday evening at 8 p.m. We bring you politicians that you look at from afar. You heard them talk, you heard them throw banters at each other, you heard what they stand for. And today, what we are doing is bringing them to you to know the other side of their life when they are not playing hardcore politics. For example, do they prefer what's it called, Amazon Prime or Netflix? Do they eat a bar with fork or with a hand? Do they, the first girlfriend they had in school, how romantic are they? Because we don't want a president that is not romantic in 2023. We want a president that can communicate, that when, like in the American movie, when the president is, doing the marriage and the president tells you, from your wedding, as you don't take the president out of office. But anyway, this evening we have presidential candidates of the African Action Congress, the party, the man we know as a writer, the man we know as a journalist, of course, a human rights activist, and a politician. Of these three major profiles, which one does you prefer to go by? My guest this evening is Mr. Omoyele Sowore. Popularly known as the Show. Good evening, sir. Welcome to the studio.
Thank you very much for bringing me.
All right. Thank you so much for being a part of it as well. All right. So, how are you doing this evening?
It's good. I feel it's been a long week. I was at the NSAS Memorial, sadly, and I was targeted by the police with some brand of tear gas.
Specifically for you?
I think it was meant for me because I couldn't breathe for a while. I thought I had like an asthma attack, and I never had asthma before. No breathing difficulties, but that day I did, and for the next 2 days it was tough. In fact, I probably walked in with a guy here that you saw, his lawyer. We were discussing just about suing the police.
Okay.
Yes.
I was just going to ask you, are you making any move to sue the police?
Yes. Well, this should stop. This should stop. The idea of attacking innocent citizens. It's rallies, constitutionally granted rights, violations. That's the reason how or why we got to NSAS in the first place. And these guys haven't learned their lesson. So it was a pretty tough few days after that. Yeah.
Okay. But I mean, Nigerians know you as the one that has, given government hell. And you stuck to one party. You had your issues in the party. You remained the candidate for the party. But one question comes to mind. After a party is contested a couple of times, after a candidate rather contested a couple of times on the ticket of a party, we normally see them decamp or cross carpet. When are you cross carpeting to APC or PDP?
No, it's not possible. I have made it very clear. If a party don't exist anymore, I would never join any political party that is known to have participated in the destruction of Nigeria. That's a no-no for me. It's non-negotiable. And I've made that very clear several times, that I'd rather fight for our party was hijacked for 3 years. We fought in court every day until we got the party back. And at the point, there was a proposal to us by people I won't want to mention here that we should create another party, and they will register the party. But we refused. We said, it's as good as giving up. Yeah. So we're fighters, and that's according to our rules. Winners don't quit, and quitters never win. Yes.
Never win.
Yes.
Anyway, never win. Yeah. Anyway, so I was just going to ask you if you ever had a proposal to decamp cross carpet.
Of course, I'm approached all the time to the camp. Right. It's been people have asked me to decamp from one ideology to the other. From one party to another, from one idea to the other. That sometimes they'll claim that they are doing it in my own interest, so that my life can be a little easy. Because I think.
How hard is your life now?
It's pretty intense. Yeah.
And what do you mean by intense? Because that's more.
It's intense, meaning that you are buffeted from all sides. So my life is as if I'm at war. Both civil and non-civil war. Like a lot of people fighting me, and I'm fighting a lot of people.
You feel safe?
Well, the concept of safety is relative. You know, if you're doing what is right, you feel safe because you are protected by your conscience. But sometimes, if you want to go physical, it's not a waste of time to talk safety when you know those who control the levers of power, authority, and violence are after you. So how can you be debating safety in that context?
Okay.
But I don't worry anymore. It's something I've done probably my entire life, and I have had to say this many times. I never knew I would make it to 30 years old.
Oh, really?
Yes,
Why?
because when I was at the University of Lagos, and as I was graduating, you know, a lot of attempts were made on my life. Uh, you know, there's been non-state actors
Yeah.
and state actors making attempts on my life, and I thought, you know, when I was about, particularly when I was graduating from the University of Lagos,
Mm.
and you know, I had police after me, DSS after me, I had court gangs after me. I thought there's no way I'll make it past 25.
Mm.
Because it was real, the threat was real, and it's still real to today. But I've gotten used to, um, you know, threats.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Okay. So let us go through your life. When you were in the university, because you were fighting against cultism and
I was fighting against school authority,
school authority,
cultism,
yeah,
the police.
yeah. But
Um,
at that time, you felt you were fighting for students.
yes, I was fighting for
Now,
students
did
as
you
well.
think your fight will extend till now, or were you just what was your plan?
I love that you asked this question because I rarely talk about it. So my intention was I got admitted into the University of Lagos. I had a cutoff point for departure from school, and I was supposed to be 1993. So I had this little plan in my head, didn't tell anybody. I said, you know, when I graduate in 1993, which should be about May, June, I'll go for NYC. By 1994, I'll be back, I'll get married, I'll find a job, you know, and because I studied, most people don't know, I studied geography and regional planning.
Yeah.
So I
So
wanted,
you'll have addressed our flood issues for us.
probably,
That's
yeah.
why we're having flood now. Using graphics.
No, actually, we were told in our geography class as of 1991. I remember the professor, his name is Ekpeyong. He came from Florida and he told us that there was a flooding, there was an issue that would kill Nigeria in the future. And there was Lagdo Dam in Cameroon that Nigeria ought to have built the outside of the dam, but they refused. And he spoke extensively about it. Then if you look on the internet today, I spoke about Lagdo Dam and the flooding caused by it as far back as 9 years ago.
Mm.
So we knew about this, but nobody took it serious, you know, because as long as that disaster hasn't hit you as Nigeria, you don't think about
We're
it.
not proactive.
We are not proactive, and we don't have a government that think proactively
And
about
now you say
disaster.
government, that means it's one tenor. But this was 1993 or 91.
This was
And this was
1991. Yes, it was government. You see, the Lagdo Dam flooding project was supposed to have been commenced in 1977. That was when Cameroon reached out to Nigeria. They want to build their own side of the dam. You build your, you guys have money. In fact, Cameroon came to Nigeria asking Nigeria to fund both sides because around 77, there's a lot of money.
Mm.
Nigeria had just come from Odoji, you know, all those wasteful, you know, they had come through the cement Amanda.
Mm.
I don't know if you guys ever heard about the cement Amanda. Yes, it is that period that Nigeria went and imported cement that they didn't need. And all of them got destroyed at the port. So there was a scandal called Cement Amanda during Obasanjo's time because he got one of his friends in the US to carry out the importation of cement. So Cameroon heard about it and said, oh, you know, come on, build, you have cement now. Come and build this dam. There was also another suggestion that the dam, the dam could be directed to the Lake Chad.
Okay.
So that, because geographers had seen that Lake Chad was having challenges at that time. It's now only 10% of what used to exist in 1977. That's Lake Chad. So there was all these efforts. And in 1983, they came back and met President Shagari, that's Cameroon, and said, look, we have built our own and we're going to be releasing water. Build your own side of it. It can generate electricity. It could be used for irrigation. Before Shagari could respond, Buhari had kicked out the regime in 1983. Buhari wiped out anything that had to do with progress in 1983. Killed people who proactively committed offenses.
Was his plan to wipe out progress, or did he think it was?
He
Maybe
wiped
thought it
out
was going
progress
to
because it
good for
was that
Nigeria.
period that he also cancelled the Lagos Metro project. This thing that they are building now in Lagos, Buhari was the person who cancelled it. Otherwise, the Lagos State Metropolis, they had a metropolitan plan to build trains across Lagos, and it was cheap. Eventually, Nigeria ended up paying more money as penalty for violation of that contractual agreement than could have built the metro line in Lagos. So,
Like judgment debt.
yes. So that's what he did with the Lagdo Dam also. They cancelled everything. And that was the last we heard about Lagdo.
Okay.
When
So let's go
climate change was then affecting the volume of water, they kept coming to Nigeria and said, come and build, come and build.
Until
Now it's too late. Now they just write you a letter and said, we are releasing the excess water on so dates.
And they said this time around they weren't releasing any letter. But anyway, that aside.
They did write letter this time around.
What changed now that you wanted to just get a job in 94, graduate, and
so yes, I want to go back to that. So my hope was I was looking for a female at the University of Lagos. I said I'm because I wasn't like that kind of a socially active student. That was an activist. I didn't belong to any club. In fact, at the point I was a member of Deeper Life. Yes, okay. Bible study group on campus.
Oh, you were preaching.
I had not gotten to becoming a preacher, but I'd gone to the church a few Sundays. The one at Bagada. Right. So it's large church, and but at the point I started seeing religion from a different angle. And it was when I met, some activists, people like Femi Falana and Bamidele Atu, Benga Olawepo, Odion Sylvester. These were student leaders, and I got excited about the fight against the structural adjustment program, SAP, in those days. So I stopped going to church. There was another reason. One of the leaders of the church used to have this prayer in his room with the female that I went to ask him one. It's like, why can't we others have female come around? And he got upset with me. So kind of like banned me from coming to the Bible study because I was questioning too much. I had too many questions for them that they couldn't answer. I would ask about the beginning of the Bible, what happened in Genesis, and those contradictions. But that's not for conversations. They don't get the church people upset. So we were finishing up 1992. Yeah. I was also a sports person. I was a swimmer for the university. Okay. And I had won as one of the swimmers to go to Nuga Games 1992. And then came a protest known as Babangida Moscow. So I was one of the major protesters and also a student union aspirants for the position of president. But in 1992, I had no chance of winning. Because students at that time weren't looking for activists. We already had an activist that they thought was too much, Olusegun Mayegun, the guy with dreadlocks. And he's like, this time around, after he's done, we'll just get rid of. So the guy that was likely to win, his alias name was Samanja. He used to walk around as a clown on campus and had this, he had Ankara, he would wear Ankara and Kembe, what Yorubas call Kembe baggies, and walk around campus and just greet people and joke. And everyone's like, Samanja. And those of us who are activists, like, what's wrong with the students? Why would they vote for a clown when we have a country to deliver? So, but then this protest happened. It was called Babangida Moscow. They closed down the university for several months, and we were all expelled from the university. Those student leaders, yes. 47 of us were expelled, as student leaders, including Mayegun, who was arrested with Bekor and some Kuti Gani. I think Gani wasn't arrested, but Femi Falana and one by Omoyele, very popular economists in those days. So they eventually released them, and but while we were away, a lot of the student leaders who were contesting, who were expelled. Two things: if you are not expelled, you are considered to be a sellout. So some other persons who were expelled went to beg. They went to beg the Oni of Ife to help them beg the university authorities. So if you went to see Oni, you are also not considered as a strong candidate for student leadership at that point. So there were a few of us left who didn't beg anybody, went to court. But there was a judge in Lagos in those days. His name is Abiodun Kesintin. We went before him, and he wasn't a judge of justice. he would just say whatever he likes. He used to be a prosecutor in Lagos before he became judge, and he was a Babangida boy. He used to call Babangida Kabiyesi. Yes, those who were around at that time would understand this. So we went before him and said, we're applying for, another amendment so that the university would take us back. And he looked at us and said, he told my I said, first you have to cut off that your hair before you come to my court. All of us were sitting with anger. And he said to us, you can't defeat the university authorities in my court. So the vice chancellor is a member of our mosque. Next Friday, you cut your hair, rest of you dress properly, I'll take you to the VC, you go and beg him. If he agrees to take you back, he takes you back. Our lawyer was one Broderick's in energy. Then I remember all these things. But
where is he now?
I think he's in the UK. He's no longer active for Nigerian circuit. But the interesting thing was that my parents did not know I was expelled.
Oh, how did you shoot it?
Yes, I already sued, but the university sent a letter to our village in Ondo State. And I was sent to the university by the village. I mean it practically. My father went around borrowing money from everybody he could find to send me to school. So when the expulsion letter came, the village politics, finally, this boy that we sent to school has caused, because the expulsion letter was very explicit, that not only was I expelled from the University of Lagos, I cannot be admitted to any university in Nigeria. Explicitly. So my father brought the expulsion letter to my uncle's house, who was staying at First Tag. So my uncle's sister had found me a job at Rank Xerox, where I was working as a part-time, worker, and as an intern practically. So, and I walked into the house. My father was sitting there. I knew what happened. I had not told my uncle that I was expelled from the university. So my father showed him. My uncle he said, "No, it's not possible. This must have been a mistake. This boy is nice. He comes to the house, he sweeps, he goes to sleep. He even reads in preparation for resumption." I wasn't reading anything. I was reading newspaper cuttings that I brought from Ranzeros because they buy all the newspapers. So to cut the story short, my father went back to school with me the next day. My uncle dropped us off, went to sell it. When we were about to enter the university, the faculty of arts, they used to have a big elevator, two of them. I don't know if it will still work. My father saw my postings in front of the elevator, and one of the most popular ones was, "If circumstances are beyond the ordinary, only the extraordinary stands." Omoyele Sowore. My father says to me, "This is why they expelled you." He said, "Why would you say you're extraordinary? Look at you, small boy. This one is enough to get the authorities up." I was praised. I was petite. That's how I can describe myself. I was a smallish person. So we went to see the dean. When he was walking to the dean's office, I didn't go with him. I heard the dean screaming, "We are looking for your child. He's planning to overthrow the government. Where is he now?" As soon as I heard that, I just zoomed off from there. Make sure, because police was looking for us actively. So my father came out when I saw him. I was watching him, he could see me, and he said, "What did you do?" They said, "You are planning to overthrow the government." I said that, "No, that's not true. It's a mistake. I think the reason they added me to the expulsion is because of the posters." I said, "But why did you put all these provocative posters on campus?" So I confessed to him that I was running for president. I said, "What? I did not send you to come to the university. I'm the first child of my parents." I said, "I sent you here, borrowed money so that you can come and help me take care of the rest of my children." My father at that point had over 16 kids.
Wow.
Boys and girls. So, yes, I was out there.
So that means you still have a long way to go.
Yes. So, so we went to see another guy who is a professor. He was a dean of science. Okay. Professor Kusemichi was his name. And on our way, another person was my dad's classmate at Wesley College. saw him. He was a deputy then, and said, my father called him and said, do you remember me? He said, yeah. Why are you the father of this boy? He said, you better leave campus now because there are policemen looking for them. So we went to see Kusimiji. Kusimiji said, there's nothing they can do. Forget it. This guy is gone. Because this request to expel the students came from President Babangida personally. So we left the University of Lagos. When we got to Oshodi, my father is like, I'm going to pack your things. Let's just go. You go back to the village. You want to do bricklayer, anything. Because you have no future. Yeah, anymore. And very interesting story. That was how first time in my life I confronted my dad. I said, no, I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to stay back and fight and go back to school. Like, that's not possible. All these professors have said it's not possible. Why are you wasting? Let's go home. You help me take care of the kids regardless, but not in that capacity that we're expecting. So I didn't go with him. Came back home. He had left. I confessed to my uncle as well. This was our best. I'm sorry, I've been lying to you. I'm aware that I was expelled. This in his paper report. And he said, but how are you going to stay with me if the only reason I'm keeping you here is because you're supposed to go back to school? I said, well, we're going to fight back. And lo and behold, when the school was reopened, we just went to school and fought back. And when the university couldn't handle our problems.
When you say fight back, what did you do?
We started lecture boycott. They had boarded up our rooms. We went and broke them open and reoccupied them.
Police didn't arrest you at that time?
At that time, police couldn't deal with the problem. I think the police was tired at that point. Like, police don't find it easy fighting students. The last student they killed, they haven't recovered from it in 1977 or so. Oluwakayode, yes, at the University of Lagos. You must have heard the story. So they didn't come and invited them. They just kept their presence within the periphery, but they didn't come in as they did. Because the last time they came to drive us out, there were a lot of scandals. The female complaining about rape, sexual harassment, and all that. So we went back to school. So student elections happened. The criteria I mentioned before.
You actually went back to school without going to court?
No, the court. We never went back to court again. Because that judge was telling us rubbish, and we didn't want to fight him in court. I was provoked enough to want to raise up my hand inside the court, but this guy was notorious. He could have thrown me into jail for contempt. Yes, Kashintin is his name. Justice. He's late now. Anyways, we went back to school. Shut down Yin for half of a day.
Yeah.
And then they granted us amnesty by 12 noon.
Oh, really?
They said they are forgiving us
for
claiming that there was a court order that we were not aware of.
Okay.
And so that's how we went back to school. And we went directly to student elections, and I won as the student union president.
That was in 93?
1992, later part of 92. Right. So why did we start this story is how my life scattered.
Yes. And
from that moment, there's no female who is willing to go with me. Yes. Immediately after that, it's like, all the guests that I was hanging out with, like, no, two things. One, that you are the first child of your father and my parents, 16 kids. No, I'm not doing that. This one will just come and ruin they will come and take over our lives. Second, that they weren't sure of if I could still graduate. They believe that the school authorities will still find a way to wait for me, and that they will somehow carry out the punishment that they didn't succeed in carrying out. So by 1993, we were waiting to write our final exams, and then June 12 happened. And that's completely just ruined any chance of graduation. So we just went to war, practically. Abandoned classes, school, we closed down the schools for most of 1993. And then eventually arrested Abiola. So we had to then go back to school. And our challenge was different. We had the court clashes at that time, when we were fighting secret courts, and school was closed down again. I was re-expelled for the second time.
On what basis?
They claimed, it's a very interesting story, but we don't have time to tell the story tonight. They claim that,
And just summarize it.
yeah, they claim that we, those of us, the student leaders, were fighting against the courts, were courts ourselves. So they expelled all of us together.
Oh,
They expelled the court guys and the student leaders together.
okay.
So, and I think they were strategic. They knew we would fight back. And when we fought back, they reinstated everybody together.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how did you get back to school?
So same way. But this one was a little bit more tactical because I had been declared wanted by the university after I was attacked. But I had to escape from loot.
Okay.
So they declared me wanted and they didn't know where I was, but I was somewhere in Lagos and I was in touch with the student leaders. We would meet.
Though there was no mobile phone back then.
None. But we had our communication strategies were probably as savvy as mobile phones. It was word of mouth, but we had meeting places, and then I had a girlfriend who
Finally.
Yes, finally.
She must be maybe a Rishabumi or something.
She was actually completely not interested in politics at that point. I was arrested during a protest by the DSS.
Okay.
And she just thought it was... Before I was arrested, we went to mobilize students from their hall, Moremi Hall.
All right.
And some of the students wanted to beat them. I said, no, don't touch them. And she came and confronted me. I didn't know. You know how people behave as if they hate you, even when they like you. So when I came back, I heard the story that she's been looking for me. She was sad that I was arrested. And then I got to meet her. And so we started dating. And she was the one who was helping me take press releases to the media from my hideouts. Yes, throughout that period. Yes.
And the media never for once arrested her.
No.
Never. I said the media. The police never discovered her.
They didn't know who she was. But the media guys who she would deliver the press releases to knew who she was. But never, of course, ratted her out. I remember, if anybody's hearing, my best friend at that time was a guy named Onajomo Orere at the Guardian.
Okay.
Yeah, the current Guardian newspaper.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. So this is what we'll do. I thought that story was going to take us like 5 minutes, but we have 1 hour and we spent like
almost 30 minutes.
Almost 30 minutes just getting to know how you derailed from your easy life that you had planned.
Yeah.
But when we come back, we'll look at your life. We'll look at your creed, your principles, what your motto is. We'll look at a lot of people don't know you're above 50. And
yes, I am. I'm 51 years old now.
So we're going to find out which Sagbadewe cream you're using. And but all that when we come back from this break. You like Drill, Johnny Drill?
Yes, absolutely.
What do you like about him?
Oh man, I just like the fact that his music is soothing. Okay. And it seems to be like very, very just very gentle. For those of us who live chaotic lives, we like to have a place of escape where there's no chaos. And I think his music bears witness to that for people like me. I actually did a record for my wife from here. And then she was asking who this guy was.
Yeah, I see. So this is what we'll do. What's the name of that lady that was your girlfriend back then?
Banker.
Banker.
Yeah.
Are you still in touch with her?
I've not seen her since then. Okay. But I met a relative of her recently who told me she's still alive.
Great.
And I hope she knows I'm alive still too.
She cannot say she doesn't know you're alive. So Banker, this is for you, saying, "How are you, my friend?" Yes. Johnny Drill and Don Jazzy. We'll be right back after this short break. Don't change that. This is Lagos Talks 91.3. We've learned about your life. We've learned about how your life morphed from your strategy of being a very easygoing, after fighting for the students, mind your business kind of.
Yeah.
I
was just planning to be a civil servant. I wanted to work in a town planning office somewhere. I was particularly interested in water supply because my final project was on groundwater hydrology. Yes.
Okay. So this is it. So I haven't done all that. People see you now and they just wonder still. Like I said, you're over 50.
Yes, I'm 51 years old.
Do people believe you're 50 when you tell me you're 50?
Yes, most people don't think I'm 50, but my guts is showing so much this year. They think I'm old. Yeah.
All right. So tell me, which Sagbadewe cream? And listeners, in case you're wondering what Sagbadewe is, I can't help you. I don't know how to translate that into English, but which cream are you using? How are you living your life that you know?
No, I spent a lot of time exercising. I did extreme exercise between, particularly since 2013, I was running marathons, and I did 8 of them between 2013 and 2018. I actually did Lagos Marathon, finished it, and that's probably one of the most challenging marathons you can run in the world.
Why is that?
Because it's hot. Lagos is, averagely hotter than most marathon weathers I've been in. And secondly, that when you get to the water stations, water has disappeared. It's Lagos, man. And when you get water, you'll be like hot water. I asked one of the organizers, I said, a doctor recommended that
really?
cold water is not good for runners. I'm like, wow, this is how doctors kill people here.
Well, is that how it's done globally?
It's not. I mean, I ran New York Marathon, even though the weather was cold. It was November, and they do it every November, which is pretty cold. You still have cold water. I mean, by the time I was about 20 miles into the Lagos Marathon, because it's 26 miles, 0.3, my hands were swollen. And this comes from the kind of water we were given on our way throughout. After the first 2 stations, in 3 stations there was no water. On one of the stations, we saw water, but they were selling it. Like the people in charge now, they were just carrying the water and selling to people across the wall, across the fence.
Like, yes, yes.
This was when was I? This was probably like 2017 or 2018. So in 2017 and 2018, I did a 10K, which wasn't a full marathon. But I've done 10 full marathons, including New York, Philadelphia, Miami, and I did one upstate New York.
Right.
Yes.
So let's look at your life now. You do all this.
Yes.
You're involved in fighting for the people. You're based in the US, but you've been in Nigeria for how long?
I've been in Nigeria now for almost 4 years.
Okay.
This by way of a court order.
Compulsion.
Compulsory. I was forced to stay, seize my passport. But before then, I lived in the US for 20 years and only spent an average of maybe 2 weeks in Nigeria every year. It'll be around December because I have like a little scholarship thing for people in my village. And after my father died,
I was going to ask you, how was it? How did your father feel seeing you, Sahara reporters?
He didn't experience it. My father had stroke before I started Sahara reporters. But before I left Nigeria, I had a very interesting dynamic between my father and myself. So I used to be really scared of my father. He was a teacher. He taught me in primary and secondary school. He doesn't support playing football, just like most parents, but by the time I had this experience with him coming to Union Life, and something happened, he believed that what I told him was right, and I had some special connection of power. When I said, I'll go back to school, don't worry, and I'll contact you. So after I was made student union president, I was selected, I wrote him a letter. And I said, see, I told you, I'm now student union president, and we are now going to fight for the country. So subsequently, when I saw my father, the rules were almost reversed. He was using "sir" for me. I was like, Daddy, no. It's like, how did you do it? Yeah, I think he respected. So, but that was around 98, 99. But he was still concerned about my future because, he reminded me, how about the kids? Because we're supposed to train them together. Yeah.
All right. So right now, looking at yourself, looking at what you've achieved over the years, I think Sahara reporters came unexpectedly.
Yeah, it came completely by accident.
You'll be shocked at how I got to know about Sahara. It was a foreigner that told me about Sahara reporters.
Wow.
It was a Ghanaian that told me. There's this thing they write, and their stories are so apt. So I'm like, which is Sahara reporter. So I started following it, and then I saw the story. But how did you get that started?
It came out of, part of it was boredom. I won't say boredom, but maybe guilt. I left Nigeria for years. I just felt like things hadn't changed, and I finished my master's degree. I came to Nigeria after my master's degree, packed my things down. I came to Nigeria, made Nigeria worse than I left it. And most importantly, I found out it was 2003. So I left 1999. I did my master's for 2 years. Did every other thing that people do in the US, working as security guard, a nurse, an auxiliary nurse in an
Oh,
old
really?
people's
So you
home.
went to wow, old
Yes,
school,
also
right?
saying, because who cares where you're from? And it was agonizing because this wasn't the America I heard about. I just thought I walk into the US and they recognize that I'm this big person from Nigeria.
Mm.
Nobody cared about me apart from the arrival and the little help I got from some people. It's like go and figure out your life.
Mm.
Anyway, so I was just thinking, let me go back to Nigeria. I came back to Nigeria. The worst thing for me was that the activists I used to know before I left
Mm-hmm.
weren't the people I met. They were like, maybe they manage things now. It's like it was Obasanjo's time.
Mm.
And like, just don't be in a hurry. So I couldn't find that balance and that connection that I needed. So I took my things and went back after I think about a month and 5 days. I couldn't stay. I just felt like Nigeria had left me behind. And I was starting to sound like a crazy person. And some of them were even saying that maybe America has messed up, which is, man, what is it?
Because you felt they had compromised.
Yes, I felt like things are not better. Why are you comfortable? So I'll go to my friends. Some of them had joined government. Some of them were defending the system. Some of them were saying that we need more time. So I went back to the US
Mm.
after that and found a job in a Catholic charity because now I had a better degree. An American degree is what does the wonder for you.
Mm.
They don't care about the one we bring from here. So, and then after that, I just started thinking that I don't think I can survive. I don't think I'm doing well in a 9 to 5 job.
Okay.
So
I couldn't do activism in the US.
yes, the activism
Right.
is limited because the things that activists for is different from what we're activists for.
Mm.
Like I was a speaker in many of the colleges, and the students will be talking about changing the bulb from 60 watts to 40 watts. Some of them is just like they'll be fighting over bulbs. Me, I said we are fighting over electricity, we are fighting over bulbs. So, there was just no meeting point a lot of time, or the quality of air, this young college students I was talking to, they were talking about quality of air, they will be giving you like the statistics of quality of air. I was like, I come from Nigeria, people just breathe, what is quality of air? And then how to convert their campus buses from petrol to
Mm.
some other renewable energy. So those are the things that we're mostly fighting for. So
So what now? At what point did you get the click that know what?
no, I just start. What happened was around 2004, 2005. There was this struggle against WTO, the World Trade Organization, and CNN was reporting something different from what we were hearing. And so I started doing internet searches and discovered that a whole lot of groups were reporting accurately, providing pictures, videos of how police was beating people outside. CNN was reporting about what was going on inside. And I was fascinated by that. Like, so there are internet sources where you can get real facts. They call them indie media.
Mm.
So my mind just went to Nigeria. I was like, is it possible that we can be doing the same for Nigeria? In this case, to go after corruption.
Mm.
So, but I still had a job. I just got married. There was no way I could just quit the job that I was doing.
Mm.
So I started writing articles for some new websites in Nigeria, Nigeria World. And then I was writing for the Guardian through Nicola German.
Okay.
So I would go out on my own and do interviews with people, government officials. So one day I interviewed Oji Kalu, and he said that Obasanjo is a killer, is a corrupt person. I sent it to the Guardian. Guardian cut it by half. Called German or what's happening. German told me, said, look, Sowore, it's good that you're writing these things. I know they are true, but this is not the place to write these things. There's too much interference here. Is there no way to find out if the internet can be helpful? So while I was thinking about it, I met a guy called Jonathan Elendu. And then we started doing Elendu reports together. And I had all the facts of corruption, houses built in London, because I used to see them in Vision magazine. I was like, my stomach turns when I see these guys are displaying opulence and there's poverty in the country. So that's how we started publishing houses. We'll go on a website in the UK, landregistry.com, addresses, found houses of serving governors, and we publish them and the pictures. And people are like, wow, how did these guys find out this information? So I worked with the Lendu for a year. And at the end of the year, he too had bailed out on me. He just came to Nigeria secretly, meeting with the politicians. And I decided at that point to set up Sahara Report. Something happened before I set up.
How did you get the name?
I just decided that since the Lendu Report was the name of somebody's father's name, when I set up my own, it would be something that's geographic. Since I studied geography, so the Sahara Desert comes to mind. And my own interpretation of it is like in the Sahara Desert, if you're a reporter, you can't predict what will happen. Wind can just blow and you are blinded by sandstorms. So that's how it came.
But were you making money at that time?
No, it wasn't. I never thought it could lead to anything.
But that's what you do full time now.
Well, I then created my own job because just like you said, a foreigner, saw what I was doing and was interested. A U.S. Woman who was in the media and gave me her office. But I started with a laptop, and so you could use my office in New York City. It's like every day I do a new report, something gets bigger. I'll be looking at the analytics. I started with 200 people, and then 2 weeks later it was 4,000 people.
Wow.
And then it just kept blowing up. And then Google AdSense started bringing in money. Even though that wasn't my intention, I didn't pay attention to that. Yes, and then it just kept growing geometrically before it became a global brand. The biggest story I did before it was the underwear bomber, the son of this banker.
Yes. I can't remember.
I forgot his name now.
Murtala, yes, sir.
Yeah, who was carrying an underwear bomb, and even though he was arrested, there was no picture of him anywhere. And I sourced and got the picture from someone and published it. One of his former classmates.
Okay.
And it went everywhere.
And it became an issue then because apparently he schooled in a British international school in and did some stuff in Ghana as well.
Yeah.
People were wondering, does he have links there and all that? But we have just 2 minutes. You won't believe it that we've done 1 hour. Yeah. And you're married.
Yes.
So let's
and I have 2 kids that I know of.
Yeah, and you have 14 to go.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny because when my father got married to 3 wives, I was really upset with him. I was like, we haven't even finished with the ones that are around. Why are you marrying more wives? But I realized that they marry and have kids for different reasons. Because they see kids as 2 things. They see children and their wives as beast of burdens because, they do manual labor practically. And they see the children as their social security. Like when in the future they can't work anymore.
Yeah.
All of them will be contributing money to the paying salaries, healthcare, and general living. So that's what I saw there. So I got a little less matter towards the end of his life. Yeah.
All right. So you're stopping on 2?
Yes. No, I don't plan to go beyond 2 that I know of.
Emphasis on that,
yes.
In case we hear any pronouncement tomorrow.
I just hope they don't come until I die. Just say they come and be fighting at the burial ground. Because I can't just see that I look like him. Yeah. Because it was very interesting when Abiola died. We were the ones selecting his kids based on the size of their ears.
So how did you meet your wife?
I met her at a party in Brooklyn, at a home party in Brooklyn.
How does she feel about what you do?
Does
she feel safe?
I wish she did her homework better. Because she just went and Googled and met one of her friends. Say, do they know one guy? Sure. They say, oh, yeah. They describe me as Shoyinka. That's Shoyinka. Wow, just want to just cause trouble and all that. And she thought since I'm no longer in Nigeria, the trouble will be over. But I knew what I'm about anyways. But she turned out to be a better activist than I thought when I got incarcerated. Yeah, she has made more appearances in foreign media than I do, and she owes me all that when I get back to her. She owes me.
We're making her popular. All right, so tell me now, one last question.
Yes.
And we have like 60 seconds to answer this. 2023, what is the hope for Nigeria?
Well, the hope for Nigeria is if Nigerians, establish real hope, not the superficial hope. And this is a period that Nigerians need to go in a different direction. Like, it has to be a conscious decision that we don't want to keep going down the rabbit hole. And if that happens, then there's hope.
But so as it is now, it's a bit shaky. It's uncertain.
I haven't seen that. What I see is a lot of confusion right now. Yeah, I haven't seen that conscious effort to change
more like
the social political. But I call it revolutionary confusion because it's deeper than that.
All right, there's so much to unpack about you. We've even the morphing from you going to from Nigeria to the States. We haven't even spoken about that.
Yeah, and I've not spoken about being a geographer who is now a journalist.
Exactly. You haven't spoken about that. You haven't given us the experience about being in Nigerian prisons. All that. So, well, this is political artistry. They've known this bit of you now. I'm sure there'll be time for us to unravel some more about you. So, what we can say now is thank you so much for being a part of this.
Thank you so much for being here as well. I know you're under the weather a little bit. I hope to see you in the